Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to an area we discuss all too often on this channel, northwestern Montana. On the eastern edge of the Blackfeet Indian Reservation is a small town called Valier. As you can see from the satellite view, this area comprises rolling hills gashed by flood-carved gullies covered in sagebrush and grasses around town. In the higher elevations of the drainages, forests of Douglas fir, ponderosa pine, and quaking aspen fade into drainages with dense stands of serviceberry and chokecherry. Emerging from the Great Bear Wilderness and the Bob Marshall Wilderness area, the confluence of numerous creeks creates Birch Creek as the slope transitions from the Rocky Mountains into the prairie. With moose, elk, white-tailed, and mule deer wandering the lengths of these bodies of water, they are pursued by predators like bobcats, coyotes, cougars, wolves, black bears, and grizzly bears. As grizzly populations increase in the wilderness areas, less competitive males and sows are pushed into this inconspicuous habitat and into locations where they're most likely to run into people. A few miles west of Valier is prime pheasant hunting territory, and on October 15, 2007, 39-year-old Brian Grand, along with 3 of his friends, were winding down their 3rd day of bagging birds. Grand worked as a construction supervisor with Reiber Construction and was an avid outdoorsman who enjoyed pheasant hunting most of all. As the 3 hunting dogs worked the brush, the companions made noise to alert any larger wildlife in the area. There had been reports of grizzly activity in the area, and the hunters took every precaution they could think of to avoid a surprise encounter. The shotguns they carried would only be a sufficient self-defense tool at extremely close range, but they didn't carry bear spray with them, so the shotguns were their only option. While the pheasant hunters pursued birds, a much larger and more dangerous predator had set up shop nearby. Sometimes ranchers and farmers would use the sharp drop-off near the creek to dump dead livestock, and a cow carcass had baited a 400-pound young male grizzly to the brush along its banks. Each night, the big old bruin would eat its fill from the cow's carcass and slink off about 300 yards to nap for the daytime hours. As Grand was rounding a dense patch of brush, he heard the sound of something big pushing its way through the brush only 30 yards from him. As he glanced toward the noise, a huge grizzly bear busted from the brush and peered around. Now Grant could see by its expression this bear was mad as a hornet and was the last thing he wanted to run into. Before he could consider what his next action would be, the bear caught sight of him and immediately began closing the distance between the two. To Grant, the bear looked like a rotating ball of fur, with its head eerily steady as it focused on him. He knew it was no use trying to outrun the massive bear, and fired a random unfocused shot from his shotgun, hoping to scare it. The warning shot did nothing to deter the bear from its progress toward him. Grand pulled his arms over his head and curled into a ball as he collapsed to the ground. The grizzly pawed and bit Grand in quick movements that released a rush of pain from various points of his body. In a brief but intense attack, the bear bit finger-sized holes in his thigh and gashed the back of his head. As it tried to get a hold of his head, the bear chomped holes in his hands and forearms. With one particularly nasty bite, Grant could feel his forearm bones snap as the bear tried to pull his hands from around his head. As the bear tore at him, the man was tossed back and forth and responded to the searing pain by jerking his body and screaming. Then the bear disappeared just as quickly as it had appeared. Guided by his terrified screams, Grant's hunting partners ran to his location just as he was trying to stand to his feet. Blood poured from places on his body, too numerous to count. The group immediately rallied around him and helped him back to the vehicles. After arriving at the hospital, Grant's injuries were sutured shut, cleaned, and bandaged. During the attack, one of his arms was broken, which would be mended by surgery after his more significant injuries healed. After interviewing Grant, wildlife officers set out culvert traps to try to catch the young bear for relocation. They deemed the bear attack was a normal response to a close-range encounter with what it deemed a threat. The bear acted defensively, but wasn't protecting cubs. Speaking of cubs, our Cub Tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to our episodes, and the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. As for the bear, I could find no source indicating if it was ever trapped or relocated. It seems safe to assume it avoided being trapped and may still prowl the area. Expressing his dismay following his attack, Grant indicated his wounds were very painful. He stated that despite being terrified of another grizzly attack, this incident would not keep him from hunting pheasants. He plans to work a few slugs into the rotation amongst the birdshot and his ammunition, just in case. In the year 2007, Montana experienced 5 grizzly bear maulings, with 4 of them occurring near Yellowstone National Park. Wildlife officials indicate that this was a routine number of attacks for the state, which sports a healthy and increasing population of grizzlies. The conventional wisdom from authorities states that visitors to grizzly country should make noise, which the hunters were doing. They also advise carrying bear spray, being aware of your surroundings, and properly stowing game meat. The pheasant hunters met each of these guidelines, further illustrating the limitations to recommended ways to avoid a surprise grizzly attack. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. Given Grant was armed with a shotgun, and it didn't help, do you think bear spray would have affected the outcome of this attack? Why didn't the dogs alert to the presence of the grizzly? What do you think happened to the grizzly after this attack? I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.